Welcome. You are listening to the End Time Courage podcast with Lauren and Amy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to End Time Courage. We are so excited to be here with you guys, and we apologize for missing last Monday. We actually had a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but we're back with you this week, and we've got some huge information to tell all of you guys. And today we are going to be discussing a topic that Amy brought up at the women's conference because it ties into everything we've talked about before and as we lead into the future with the End Time Courage podcast. And it has to do with the Babylonian system that we're in. And it's interesting that you were prompted by the Lord, Amy, to talk about that at the women's conference, because as I was thinking about the episodes we've done before, and I'm thinking about what the Lord has prompted you to talk about today, how it's all just fitting in with the prophecies from Chris Reed, with the 7 years that we're looking at, like trying to get our homes in order, with Latoya talking about learning how to get into that presence with the Lord so we know where to turn right, where to turn left. You know, it's just so gelling, and I can't wait to hear kind of what the Lord's asked you to talk about today.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing because I think I even told you when I was preparing for the ladies' conference, Daniel was just really on my heart.
Right.
You know, and of course, you know, you're probably like me. When you hear Daniel, the first thing you think about is Daniel in the lion's den. Mm-hmm. You know, and so I didn't really know the direction that the Lord was going to send me in, but I just knew that I was supposed to talk about Daniel. And so, of course, he's an amazing character, and I was excited about that. But it really wasn't until I started digging into this book that I started recognizing, oh, this actually goes right along with what you and I have been talking about, what this podcast is about. You know, exactly what you were saying, that like, oh my goodness, this is such a tie-in. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't connecting that initially. I'm just thinking, oh, the Lord wants me to talk about Daniel, who's this amazing man that we can learn from about his attributes and his character. But then the Lord really began to open up.
I know, it's so funny because when I asked you, Amy, what are you speaking about at the women's conference? And you were like, Daniel. Don't know much more, but Daniel. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, okay, we got 2 weeks, Daniel. That's how you are. But in my mind, I was thinking, that fits. That totally fits. That fits what we have been talking about, the past podcast. Daniel's an end time book.
Yes.
You know, Daniel seal up the words of this book for a later date. Now we're getting pieces of that later date.
Yes.
So good.
I know. I never know like exactly what I'm doing until it's like almost happening. And I try to explain to the people who want like my slides and, you know, pictures and everything that no one is more bothered by this than me. Like I can just assure you that I wish the Lord just, you know, months in advance would show me this is what you're talking about. But he did give me the book. And then, like I said, as I dove into this, I really saw how, oh, this is really connecting with what you and I are already talking about and what we're going to continue to talk about.
I was blown away. And guys, if you, do you know if that was casted live on the women's
I'm
conference?
not
For them to go
sure.
back and listen?
I'm not sure. I'm going to go and check on that, but I'm totally ready to unpack for anybody who missed it. I don't want you to feel like, you know, I don't want anyone to feel like that, oh, we're going to have to play catch up. You're not. I'm going to give like a good synopsis of what, and really even unpack.
It was so good. Like, it was just so good. I was sitting there blown away by your revelation. You did so good.
Thank you. It was the Lord. And, you know, and so like I said, when we think about Daniel, we usually think about the lion's den. That's one of the first things we learned, especially if like in Sunday school when we were younger and we're like, oh, we want to be brave like Daniel. And so as I began to just study into his story and really think about what the implications that, you know, in chapter 1, we just find out that he and all of these children, teenagers, are taken from their homes and they're brought into a different city, a different kingdom. They're going to serve, you know, a different king. They're going to be around people who worship different gods. They had no say-so in it. They're basically taken captive. And, you know, you have to really And I think us as ones who love to use our imagination, sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad.
I do.
In this part, I think it was good because I really stopped to think, like, there's a whole lot of parents represented right here that we don't know anything about. We don't know their names, but oh, wow, the brokenheartedness and the wonder. Have I poured enough in that when Daniel, my son, is taken into this Babylonian world?
That's so good, because when I was sitting there listening to you, I'm going to pour into that for a second. When I was sitting there listening to you, I've never thought about it in that context, that these are somebody's sons.
Yes.
And like you said, and pointed out the age, they were teenage boys.
Yes.
And I went to my sons thinking, if they were taken from me, okay, just pick a country, pick a tribe, how about Hezbollah?
Right.
What if they were taken to be soldiers or to go into that country and there was nothing I could do about it? What would come about their life? What would come about, like you said, what I taught them, what they know? Would they stand strong against fear and adversity? Like I started thinking about that. Was so good.
Yeah, it's amazing their age, and I think, and I even talked about it at the conference that, that one of the first things that we see him do is to deny the king's table, to deny the king's meat, that I'm not going to eat food that would have been forbidden in the Torah. And so he goes and has this diet, of vegetables and water. And, we talked about how he was a growing boy. Yeah. You're not fully grown when you're a teenager. And so, and he's a boy.
Meat. Give me meat.
Like, they're all about meat. Like, if you hear a girl say, I'm just going to eat vegetables and water
Just give me a salad for lunch.
Right. Like, we're okay with
Boys
that.
aren't going to do that.
They're never going to do that. Like, my son, I'm sure your sons as well, have never come home and said that.
No, never.
And so
I think they gag when they eat salad or vegetables.
that's exactly right. And so, and just only water. And again, all the food and the wine was available for him. And we see, if you study this empire, these kings, what you see that they valued was youth, intelligence, beauty, vanity, their image. And as I was studying this, I was like, wow, that sounds like a lot like the world we live in.
Totally what we live in.
Right? Like, we're all about, me and mine and beauty.
A selfie.
Right.
Right? Like every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing is we don't realize, and this is going to tie into probably what will be part 2 of us discussing this, is that this was so, in this book, it's so apparent that they've been taken into captivity and they're surrounded by a system that is anti-God.
Right.
But what the Lord started really showing me is, are you aware of that? And we talked about how our Starbucks orders, just our Starbucks orders can be, really, really
obnoxious.
And, I put down here in my notes that one of this is an actual order.
So funny, yeah.
From Starbucks. This lady said that she would like a grande caramel macchiato, a third whole milk, a third almond milk, a third soy milk, double the amount of vanilla syrup, triple the amount of caramel syrup, no caramel drizzle on top, upside down. I still don't know what that means. Whipped cream, round lid, 1 shot extra espresso, cinnamon sprinkled on top, and hold the cup.
I just can't. Hold the cup. Like, I can't even understand this.
Somebody told me that it's like, I think if you're not going to stay, like it's to go or something if you've ordered. I don't even know.
What?
And again, like my own Starbucks order is probably a little complicated. And so, I don't want our audience to hear me say these Starbucks orders are wrong.
Right.
My point is that our society feeds into this, it's all about me and I can have it the way that I want it. And we're already prone to being that way anyway. When we used to get our elementary a school class picture, the first person you look for is yourself.
Of course. You don't see anybody else.
You don't go and see how your best friend, like, I hope my best friend looks good in this picture. Like, you go and you look at yourself. Like, that's a natural in our natural.
Yeah, and you're looking all awesome while your best friend's like this. And you're like, we'll take that one.
Yeah.
Your friend's like, what?
That's exactly right. We're going to choose the picture,
Yes.
That makes us look the best.
Yes.
And as you were talking about with selfies, because we're going to see, in just a couple of chapters that one of these kings made a golden image of himself.
Oh, man. That's the first selfie.
That everybody needed to bow down to. And I thought about selfies of how we post
good.
pictures and the amount of likes or dislikes. Maybe we're not asking them to bow down, but we certainly want them to recognize our latest cover photo
good.
where we were looking cute
At the gym.
at the gym.
I loved that analogy. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true.
I know.
Maybe just do a different pose.
Right. Like, I just can't see one more bathroom picture at the gym with the same pose, the same headband, the same, like, let's just do something different. And again, it's like all of these things are not necessarily sinful in and of themselves, but it's feeding. If we're not countering this and pushing back, the lust of the sin, lust of the flesh, the pride of life, the pride of life. That's where we are naturally gravitating towards anyway. And now we have a world that completely feeds into that. If you can have it your way,
And you deserve it.
and you deserve it. And again, it's like, just even 25 years ago, it really wasn't that way to the extent that it is now. And, the Antichrist spirit is very much all about me. I mean, that, Lucifer fell because of pride.
That's good.
And so you can see the progression of this in our society that even 25 years ago, I talked about at the conference that if you went and asked for coffee, I mean, did you want it black or do you want me to put a little cream and sugar in it for you? And they probably chose and brought you that cup of coffee and you were just happy to have some.
That's right.
It was not all about me. I was there because I wanted coffee, but they weren't going to set up this whole thing to just suit my own preferences that could be different than yours. Talking about the image thing and the selfies, the Lord highlighted, and again, not saying it's wrong, filters. The filters that go along with that image that, I mean, there have literally been a couple of times that I have had a friend request from someone and I look at the picture and I'm like, I don't know that person.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but we have 432 similar friends.
Who is this?
Like, I have to know them.
Yeah.
And then I get into their page and I recognize, oh, I do know them. That's just not what they look
That's
like.
not what you look like. I see you every day at church. Who is this?
And again, it's like there's nothing wrong with wanting to be healthy.
Yes.
With wanting to, to exercise,
My
to
goodness.
maybe be in the sun and get some color. But the goal is to not do those things, but then just put a filter on so it
Yeah.
looks like I am.
Right.
Because the image here was a reflection or likeness of. That's the image. It's that I'm not even putting out what is really even me and my vulnerabilities and flaws. I'm putting out a likeness that makes me look the best possible way.
Flawless.
Flawless.
Perfect.
And that's what I want you to see. And that's what by the way, I want you to click
Yes.
like on. And again, it's just the fact that we're in the system, and if we're not careful, we're conforming. And even when people travel, I don't really do a lot of traveling. I don't know that I really love traveling. I like going on vacation. But used to, you picked up your phone in front of one of the most beautiful natural wonders of the world, or you didn't pick up your phone, you picked up your camera.
Yep.
Now, like, you put yourself in
Oh, yes.
the picture.
Yes.
You're in front of Niagara Falls. You're in front of the Grand Canyon. And, for somebody like me who doesn't travel, I'm like, I've never seen these places, like, move. Like, I want to see
Yes.
one of these wonderful,
Not you.
beautiful things. Like, I can go to your gym bathroom picture. If I want to see you, I'm trying to look at the ocean.
Yeah. Right?
And again, like we've all done it.
know.
It's not to say all of this is sinful. And another thing the Lord really highlighted is when all of us look back, pictures in the 80s, the 90s, and we're like, what were we doing with our hair?
Right.
Why is our hair so big? Why is our hair, our bangs, have like a half a bottle of it? But because somebody told us. If we had a hairstyle and clothes that now us, the same people, look back and think it was horrendous, somebody else informed us
Yeah.
that it was good at that time and horrendous now.
At this time. Yep.
And so, and again, I'm definitely not saying that Christians should be irrelevant or that we should be going, around looking like we're, 200 years ago. But again, could we have the revelation of why would I think that's beautiful, and 10 years later, I don't think it's beautiful anymore, and neither does the rest of society, because someone told us that's not what's in
Or programmed
anymore. Yes. And so we go through the book of Daniel and we see he's not doing that.
He's not programmed.
He's not programmed. He is keeping his identity. He is holding on to his values. He is remembering who he was. The scripture says over and over that Daniel, and it'll say comma, who had an excellent spirit.
Like you said, and I love how you pointed out from the very get-go, his age.
Yes.
It wasn't that he started with all this wisdom being carried off into Babylon at 40 years old, 45, 50. He had all this time to grow up and mature. It was in him from get-go.
Yes.
As a teen.
Yes.
He wasn't programmable.
That's exactly right. And again, I'm, 47 years old, and I'm like, I can learn from this teenager, and of course the 3 Hebrew children as well. But we see over and over that Daniel is choosing his God. He's choosing prayer. He's choosing who he was. He's keeping his identity that clearly his parents poured into him.
Right. He learned it from somewhere.
He learned it from somewhere, and goodness did it stick. But in chapter 1, verse 8, it says, but Daniel resolved. Daniel resolved. And the Lord really highlighted to me that you don't resolve when all of a sudden you're going to be thrown in the lion's den. If you haven't resolved all along, if you haven't been able to give up the king's table, you're probably not going to be able to give up your very life. If you've not been able to resist all the wine and drink water, you're probably not going to be ready to be thrown in the fiery furnace. And so the Lord is inspiring us like he did Daniel. Resolve now. Resolve now when the stakes aren't so high, and get used to being in that kind of counterculture, so that when the stakes grow and the price is higher, you've already died to yourself.
Yes. You're ready.
You have to die little by little. And, long before, Abraham took Isaac up to the altar, he had left his land. He had died all along.
He had sacrificed much already.
He had sacrificed a lot. And so now when the Lord is asking for the most precious thing, he's able to do this and trust the God who is taking care of him in all the other sacrifices. But as you get, further and further in this book, which is an amazing book, I so, recommend anybody just diving into this book, asking the Lord to,
especially now,
to give you, especially now, to give you insight and revelation, because what it really hit me and what was funny is I didn't see it until I was actually speaking, which is what happens with me a lot, that I'll be speaking and God will start giving even increased revelation
while you're speaking,
while I'm speaking, that I didn't even get while I was studying. That this book and this man who is teaching us how to resist a Babylonian mindset is also the prophet that is foretelling the end times.
Oh, that's good.
This is not a coincidence that he's the very prophet that is prophesying what will go on at the end of the age, that possibly our generation, our children's generation will be facing.
Yeah.
He is telling us how to stand in that system. But, because Babylon is also mentioned in Revelation.
Yeah, and wasn't it true, Amy, Babylon, when we go back and we start studying the Babylonians, there's so much information on that. That's
Yes.
not, it's in the Bible, but yet you have a whole entire sect of the world, the historians and everything, they look at it from a different lens.
Right.
And that entire civilization from the Assyrians and Babylon, at that time, they were everything. Like you said, it was about image, it was about beauty, it was about show. His palace was, if you go back and look at the pictures of Nebuchadnezzar's palace, he had these hanging gardens, and he was above his time. He had these massive, huge blue sapphire gates
Yes.
and tiles of all these colors that they had. It was just an eye candy
Yes.
place.
And
Indulgence for the senses
Yes.
at that time.
sensuality.
Like
we
it is
see
now.
that. Yes. It's like the parallels are undeniable. And again, in Revelation, it talks a lot about Babylon, and kind of going along with what you're saying, it wasn't just this tiny little city.
No.
It was an empire, and there were lots of things and places within that empire. But the one thing that they all had in common was me and mine and pride. And I think I brought this up when God tells Abraham to leave. I want you to leave your land, the Ur of the Chaldees, and come to a place that I'll show you. That was within the Babylonian Empire. So God is even calling Abraham out
I didn't
of that place.
that.
And then boom, all these books later,
They're back.
They're back. They've been dragged back into the very thing that God wanted them to escape, because the first time we see Babylonium, Tower of Babel,
Yes.
they're there to what? Make a name for themselves and to
Self-promotion.
self-promotion. We will be
All the way
as
to the top.
gods. In fact, there's a whole chapter in Isaiah, and we may have to put this in the notes because I'm not really sure. I don't know if I have this in my notes. We can comment on it later so people can find it. But there's a whole chapter that is nothing about Babylon, and it's not good. It's that God will judge that they have said, there are no other gods besides us.
And is it not surprising that the Lord uses Babylon as a mystery symbol for the end times? Like, it's going to look like this place that I really can't stand.
Right.
And that's all out of Rome, out of Egypt, out of all those great, rich, self-indulgent lands. He
Yes.
said Babylon.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's Isaiah 47. If some of our viewers want to look that up and see what the chapter's about, what Babylon said about themselves, and then what God says
That's good.
about them.
That's good.
And it's like, oh, I'm going to bring you down. And of course, that's what he does with the pride and the lofty.
pride.
He's going to humble that. And so, what is the application for us? The application is, are we doing what this teenager did? Are we resisting the culture that tells us how to feel about things and what to eat and what to wear and where to go? And are we, as grown-ups, as believers, we even have the Holy Spirit dwelling within us. Are we resisting the culture, or are we just swimming along with it and we don't even recognize it?
Right.
We're not even aware that, oh, why do I think this is better? Why do I think this hairstyle is out of style and that this one's in? And in 20 years, they're going to tell me something different, and I'm going to think it's my idea too. That like, oh, well, of course, we all know that. Well, no, we don't. Are these, somebody put the other day, if you want to know what's in style, go back and look and see what everybody was wearing in 1979. It's like we've just kind of circled
It goes
around.
on and on. Like Solomon says, there's nothing new under the sun.
That's exactly
And there's
right.
nothing that will be done that hasn't already been done.
Yes. And so a lot of what people are wearing right now comes from the 70s.
Yeah.
And guess what? When the 80s rolled around, we thought what they were wearing in the 70s was ridiculous.
Right.
But now all of a sudden, we're going and buying what they were wearing in
Yes.
the 70s because why? Because we see it on our screens
Yeah.
and we see that's what's advertised.
Because Babylon's doing it.
Right.
And like you were saying, Babylon is a system,
It's a system.
and it's not really what's the word? It's not really like this nation or that nation or this nation. It's a system globally. It comes from that root of pride.
It does.
The beautifulness, the self-images, all the things. It's a system.
Yes, it is. And I put in here that the most dangerous captivity is friendly captivity. Friendly captivity, because the person who is showing up and saying, oh, you deserve the big house. You deserve
The deserve
you to be beautiful. You deserve, and we can help you do that. We have this $500 cream that you can buy, and you're gonna look flawless by next week. And I probably don't have enough money to tithe right now, but I definitely
need that
have.
cream.
But I need that cream. And as soon as I'm flawless, I'll give to the Lord again. And then we have just a further captivity, which we might highlight more in part 2. And again, it doesn't look like captivity.
Right.
But it is.
Oh, it looks like convenience.
It's, oh, that's okay. You don't have enough money for it. I'm going to give you a card. You can charge it. You can put it on this card. You can have exactly what you want.
Yeah.
But yet, how much more money do we end up paying in those little monthly payments? That is captivity.
It is.
That is captivity to a system who convinced me in the first place that I even needed to buy this. And maybe on my own, I wouldn't even thought I did.
Right.
So they've convinced me to buy it. They've convinced me to think that I need it. And then they've convinced me to spend money that I do not have to acquire it. And it's not probably going to work anyway.
Right.
And so then I'm going to have this cream that's not working. Maybe it's even empty by now, but I'm still paying on it.
That's right. Yeah.
But when it's presented, they look like our friends. I mean, anybody that wants us to be rich and beautiful and thin and have a nice vacation is certainly my friend.
But isn't that what Lucifer does? He's called the enchanter. He enchants,
Yes.
right? And that's just his system
Yes.
that we've all been enchanted by, and we fall for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we do. We watch television and we see beautiful people on television who it's all about image and oh my goodness, the photoshopping that goes along with the people. But then the women, it's such a captivity both ways because the women look at the TV and don't realize everything that's been done. I actually watched a video on this and how it was crazy all that they did to this woman to make her look like she did in the commercial. So the women, the young girls look at the TV and think, I'm supposed to look
Why
like
don't
that.
I look like that? Like,
And then the
why?
little boys and men look at it and think, why doesn't my wife look like that?
Yeah.
And they don't realize they don't even look like that. They have been messed with on a computer. And one of them was like it elongated the neck.
Stop.
And then it like drew in this line. I mean, it was crazy all that they did to this woman on just one commercial.
Yeah.
And again, image. And so what they're even presenting to us isn't real, but yet we're trying to keep up with it.
Goodness, it's all like in my head just coming. What does Revelation say? The image of the beast.
Right.
The image of the beast. The 666, right? It's the image. And
Yes.
I love how you're painting this picture because the Lord is telling us, look, guys, open your eyes.
Yes.
Look, don't be looking for a specific beast.
Yes.
It's the image of the beast.
Well, and again, it's like how, we're told that there's going to be such deception.
Yeah.
And most of us would think, oh my goodness, we would never be deceived. Well, of course, if a beast walked in,
We would know it's a beast.
that looked horrifying.
Yes.
We would run, we would shield our families, we would want no part of that. But what have we done in this system so far?
Yeah.
When they've told us that tan is certainly better than white and thin is certainly better than curvy.
Yeah.
And we've bought in this whole time, like we're not in Daniel 1 resolving We've bought in to the big house, to this car is better.
To all the credit and all of the loans
We're
and
in
all of the things.
debt. And so what makes us think that we will not be buying in to the next thing if we're already bought in now?
Well, if we're already groomed.
Right. That's exactly right.
It's just a grooming.
It is a grooming. And so we have to purposely, I can assure you for me too, if I'm not getting up every single day purposefully saying, I will not be swayed by this system, God, what do you say is beautiful? What do you say is successful?
Yes.
What do you value in a woman? If I'm not purposefully doing that, I will automatically, without effort, buy into the system that the world tells me via social media, the television, the radio, the billboards. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah. And
It's everywhere.
And then just like you said, from that mentality, you drift like a car right into the slaughterhouse,
Yes.
into the system of the beast, which the Lord warns us about in Revelation. Although it's very symbolic and a lot of symbolism, we are starting to get pictures of what it's looking like, even though none of us have it all figured out.
Right.
But you just bringing up the book of Daniel and preaching on that at the women's conference, it is a piece to that puzzle. It's opening up everyone's eyes to go, okay, it's all around me. I'm slowly being groomed and herded this way.
Yes.
And while like you were saying, there is good, there's still poop in the pie.
Right.
So do you want the pie?
Right.
And we have to be super careful to navigate in this system and not be a
Absolutely.
part of it. Like you were saying at the women's conference, I can be in the system, but not be a part of it because I have to live here.
Yes. I love that because Daniel was in the midst of Babylon, but he was not carried away by Babylon. He was able to maintain who he was in a foreign land. He did it very much alone with three of his friends. And, and again, there was a multitude of young people brought to the Babylonian Empire. They were all Israelites. There were only 4 mentioned that said, I'm not doing this. Whatever it costs me, I'm not entering into this. And so what is the challenge for us? The challenge for us is to ask the Lord, where have I bought into this system? Where am I cooperating with the world right now? Is there something that I need to give up?
Yeah.
Is there something, do I just need to turn the television off for a month and see if I might even change my mind about what I think is beautiful and what the next thing is that I need to buy? A lot of us don't even realize, and of course, again, it's part of a system. A lot of what we have bought in the last year was a result of an advertisement on the television. It wasn't something that in prayer or just walking around the house that, oh, I need this.
Yeah.
No, it was planted in. It was advertised. I took it in.
And I have to have it.
And now I have to have this. And so maybe it's just asking the Lord to even, what does he have to say about your next, say, 10 purchases that are over $40? Father, do I need this? Wait a week.
That could be those extra 10 purchases of $40 that can be invested into situations that are going to produce a yield to build a Goshen.
Absolutely.
That's where my mind
which
goes.
is going to be part 2, partly,
Yep.
of this, because there's just so much to unpack, and I can't wait. We have something really exciting to share in our next
We do.
in our next episode, but we're not going to jump ahead right now. We're going to
Nope.
discipline ourselves to.
We are, and this is where we're going to leave you hanging, and we are going to say goodbye for today and jump into part 2 for next week. So we hope to see you back, and yeah, y'all have a great week, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yes, we love our viewers.
Bye.